I have this story that just came up in my mind. I was a senior, we called him firstie at the Naval Academy at the time, and I had a pretty prominent position. And for whatever reason, I was asked to be one of the people who gave President Clinton a tour of campus. And I remember I was having this pretty deep conversation with President Clinton, and he was responding to me, but I will never forget that the entire time he was talking to me, he never looked at me. He was like looking through me almost as if he was looking a football field away in the distance. It always affected me because I was in his presence, but I didn't feel like I was in his presence,
Yes.
so to speak. And although he was dialoguing with me, I didn't
Yeah.
feel like I was being validated by him in any way. I just felt like he was going through the motions. And I think we do the same thing that he did so often without even knowing it.
That's right, that's right. We are so focused on our goal, and you gotta just flip that on its head. It's this Zen cone, right? A Zen cone is like a riddle where you have to try and figure out how both of these things can, like, simultaneously be true or what have you. And it's this situation where the more you try, the more focused you are on your agenda, the less likely you are to achieve it. The more you focus on having the other person feel seen and heard, the more likely you are actually to receive that in return. But you have to drop all pretense. You can't come at it through fake, inauthentic communication. It just doesn't work. And if it does, it's a very skilled sociopath, and they're few and far between, fortunately.
Well, I want to give the counter example.
Sure.
So I was fortunate enough to get to meet Colin Powell,
Mhm.
and I met him in the weirdest of circumstances. I had spoken at a Salesforce event called Dreamforce, and the
Mm.
CEO of Salesforce, Mark Benioff, a buddy of mine, is close friends with Neil Young. So Neil Young was performing to a smaller group. There might have been three or 400 of us there. And Colin Powell, who was on Mark's board, happened to be there. I'd never met him before, but we're in the midst of this getting prepared for go to this concert. And obviously, because he's there, there's a lot of attention. But he found out that I was a veteran. And as compared to President Clinton, it was as if the world stopped and I was the
Mhm.
only thing that mattered at that moment to
Mm.
Colin Powell. And he made me feel really unique and thankful for that I had served like he had and other things. And but the difference in how I walked away from that and how I felt validated as a human and made to feel like I mattered was pretty profound. So I just give
I
those
love that.
examples because I think it really sums up the discussion we've been having today.
It reminds me also, just real quick, of this story of the Dalai Lama. I think they told this in The Art of Happiness before he was, like, on the map as this huge religious figure. He was in the United States or something, he's staying at a
Yeah.
hotel, and they would describe people, like, first couple days they're there, people he stops and talks to everybody, and everybody in the hotel knows him, and then by the 3rd day, there's just a line of people waiting to talk to this man, right? No one knows who he like, really understands who he is. He didn't have the same cultural significance he has now, but he had this effect on people wherein they were drawn towards him. And I have to imagine that a lot of what was getting communicated in those moments was validation and acceptance.
It's interesting because when I worked for Lowe's, I was senior executive at Lowe's. We had this gentleman named Larry Stone who started as a mail clerk and then worked the cash register and ended up progressing, never went to college, all the way to becoming the president and chief operating officer of Lowe's. And we would have this national sales meeting where you'd have all the executives there, including the CEO. How many of the employees do you think wanted to meet with the CEO? Very, it turns out very few. Larry, it was as if he was a rock star. He had hundreds of people following him around. And the reason being, I think, was Larry knew their stores better than they did, but he
Mhm.
didn't. This guy was like a walking encyclopedia. I would go on a store tour with him, and in the first 2 or 3 minutes, he could tell you everything about a store, but he knew the metrics on the stores better than the store managers did, but he never approached it like I'm a know-it-all. He always used it as coaching moments to make them better humans. And I think people really respected that for them because he didn't criticize, he helped. And he was almost like that grandfather we all wish we had, who was this just sage person that helped us improve as a human. It just, to me, that's what validation does.
Totally. It reminds me again of something I learned in grad school or was taught, which is that I might be the expert of depression or anxiety in that I know what causes it, I understand how to treat it, X, Y, or Z, X, Y, Z. But the client, patient, is the expert of their experience. And you must show deference and respect to that. Similarly, the CEO with this encyclopedic memory might be the expert of his domain and really understand these stories. But he is also respecting the expertise of the other person's experience, trying to understand that, meet them where they're at, and see if this other expertise he has could strengthen what they bring. I
And to,
really embrace that. Yeah.
and to me, it's really a great example of a good leader versus a great leader.
Absolutely. And again, that in like you were saying with Colin Powell, right? He's talking to you like, no offense, but you're not going to have a huge effect on Colin Powell's. He doesn't need to get anything out of you. And yet he's still bringing that humility and respect. And if you're just out it to get stuff from other people, you're going to come at it. It's going to feel like the Bill Clintons, right? They only really engage, if they ever engage, with folks that they can get something from.